Welcome to the Playmakers Ball Podcast, College Football Edition. Man, we got a good week coming up for college football. We're going to talk about the AP polls yet again. We're going to get into what's going on with Clemson, as Kelly Bryant has decided to transfer and leave Clemson. And how does that affect the games of this week coming? But hey, as we already know, we always preview the week coming. Penn State hosts Ohio State. Stanford takes a trip to South Bend to take on Notre Dame. And West Virginia has a top 25 matchup and love it against the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Trust me, this week it's going to be good. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another week edition of the Playmakers Bar Podcast, College Edition. As you already know, I am your host, Darnell, the Playmaker Silence. And on the other side, it's Dallas Glenn. How you doing?
I'm doing good. These banks messing with money, but I'm doing good either way.
We got some things to get into. Last week of college football, a lot of stuff happened. Dallas had some interesting takes. We're going to get into some of the big matches of this incoming week of college football. So without any further ado, Dallas, let the people know what's on your mind from concerning last week's action.
I mean, the biggest takeaway is I think the obvious takeaway is who can beat Alabama, but it's really how it's impossible. But how is the SEC? How is the SEC not going to get at least two teams in? You look at Georgia and you look at their performance. You look at Alabama and their performance. LSU is sneaking up the rankings. I mean, the Big Ten is looking very weak. The Big 12, they're about to cannibalize themselves this week. We'll get into that. But, I mean, no other conference has a team behind the team that's probably going to win the championship. Who's really is Stanford really going to get enough respect if they win the Pac-12 over Washington? Like, would Miami, if they could still pull it off, get playoff level respect over Clemson?
It's fun thing you brought up Clemson because Trevor Lawrence is the starting quarterback, and news came out that Kelly Bryant is done at Clemson. He's transferring.
Which is crazy because you're announcing this after a freshman, which means not experienced, which means the last real snaps they took was high school. And you're going to bag it up when you're still playing for a national championship. You're still playing for a national championship right now, and you just announced you're going to bag it up a couple of days after a freshman was announced when Clemson's been running a two-quarterback system? That's odd to me because I'm not going to sound like those grandpa analysts that are like, oh, these kids and commitment and blah, blah, blah. But there is a point to where you realize, hold on, wait a minute. Like, what class is Bryant? A junior? He has to be a junior. If he's a sophomore or anything else, that's ridiculous. But there's just so many opportunities for a freshman to mess up when you're playing for a national championship. I don't think this is a case of college football coaches being like NFL coaches and following the hot trend. Everybody knows a quarterback like Tua at Alabama is rare. So for Kelly Bryant to be wrapping it up, that's hilarious to me. Because even though a college coach is going to take him in a heartbeat, it's just hilarious to me because, like, where else are you going to compete for a national championship? What other team is going to field you as their starting quarterback that Dabo Swinney isn't going to block? Because Mark Richt might take Kelly Bryant, but Dabo Swinney is going to block that transfer almost immediately. But Darnell, I have a question before we get into the picks real quick. Another big takeaway is I believe UCF – I said it last week, but I just have to say it again. UCF got really lucky with their North Carolina game being canceled. Because between Army almost beating Oklahoma, between BYU beating Wisconsin, and a lot of other stuff, Iowa State held it close against Oklahoma a couple weeks ago. I think UNC might have been a trap game. They were coming off a couple blowouts. UNC was coming through, Power 5 opponent. Nobody really respects UNC right now. They can't get kids to do their own schoolwork. How are they going to get them to play football? Nobody's really checking for UNC in football right now. So that might have been a good look. But,
it's a lot has happened from this past weekend to where we at now. I'm going to go back to the Kelly Bryant situation. It says that Lawrence has the offense looking better. But you needed Kelly Bryant to get out of Texas A&M. Because if you didn't have Kelly Bryant, you was going to lose to Texas A&M.
That was a team effort, that game. You're completely right.
Now, I picked Clemson to win the ACC. Now, I have to be cautious because you put it in the hands of another quarterback.
A freshman.
And the other quarterback that you had and who has proven himself is now trying to transfer.
Which, again, you're contending for a national championship. I'm sorry, but I know I want to have a great college career, and I know I want to go to the NFL. I can't remember all the transfer rules. I just know that graduate students are the ones that can play immediately, unless you drop down a division or something. So it's like, I don't get the angle of this move. I would imagine starting and earning back your starting job on a national championship contender would have more scouts looking your way. Dominating at some FCS school, dominating at some school that's a money game every week for the Oklahomas and the Florida States and the Washingtons of the world, that's not going to get it done. Because all the scouts are going to look at is when he was faced with adversity, he transferred. He transferred because of a freshman. How is he going to beat out anybody in training camp? But keeping it to the context of what you were talking about, this changes everything. Because the ACC is already weak. Now you got the king of the ACC having quarterback issues.
Dare I say, the Big Ten is not done. Dare I say, the Big 12 is not done. Even the Pac-12 is not done. Because now, consequently, there might be an open spot because of what's going on at Clemson.
You're absolutely right, because this just spells upset. This just spells the Miami game. This just spells Wake Forest or some other team like that catching them slipping. This spells a Duke kicking a last-second field goal. This spells all of that. Because a coach like Dabo, what's Dabo supposed to do? He's benched. You didn't name the starter, so now you can't really do a 2-quarterback platoon with an announced starter. So with Kelly Bryant kind of sort of checking out, you have to imagine Clemson's about to catch a loss. If a Stanford can win out, if a Washington can win out, your credit. If a Wisconsin can win out and beat Ohio State, you have to wonder now. Because is the ACC strong enough to where a one-loss Clemson should really get over a team like Washington or Stanford, who was basically dueling back and forth the whole season to get the conference crown?
And those of you who forgot, why we going so hard on the ACC, Old Dominion took down Virginia Tech.
That was one of the strongest teams in the ACC, and that's not really saying a lot. A team like West Virginia, top to bottom, was better than Virginia Tech. But now after losing to Old Dominion, a team who was 0-3, and I got blown out by 3 straight Group of 5 opponents, bad look.
Let me put it in context for you. Old Dominion beat Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech started the downfall of Florida State this season.
Which basically means that Florida State is a wrap because they lost to Syracuse. They got blown out by Syracuse. So that means that really the only teams you could check for now are Miami and Clemson.
We're still waiting to see if Miami's for real or not.
Yeah, because they do this all the time.
They played one test and they got punched in the mouth.
Yeah, because like Miami does this all the time since 2002, don't they? Have a great year, make us wonder, get some people drafted, then back to normal. It's like you got a hurricane at head coach. Yeah, you got everybody copying you this year with turnover chains and turnover backpacks and touchdown chains. Everybody wants to be the U again, but the U, they felt themselves too early, and now you're having the typical Mark Richt year. Everybody's feeling you. Top 10 preseason ranking. Wet the bed first game of the season. Still haven't really recovered. It's a miracle that Miami's still ranked. Yeah, they've been winning. And yeah, they've been getting it done some. But I mean, it's just 16. There's no room for error. Even a team.
Yeah, I say what the issues going on at Clemson that all these ranked matchups has heightened up a bit.
Oh yeah, because me and you, before we get to the picks, me and you were talking about something. Notre Dame needs a lot of people to lose. Notre Dame needs a lot of people to. Notre Dame sitting at 8th. They just beat Wake Forest. They beat the brakes off of Wake Forest. They beat Vanderbilt. They beat Michigan. Darnell, they beat a MAC team. When you think of Group of 5 conferences, the MAC isn't up there, but they're not sorry either. You look at Notre Dame's schedule, no FCS team. All Power 5 teams except for Ball State. An SEC team, an ACC team, back-to-back. They're still number 8. They haven't budged a bit. But me and you both know that Notre Dame is an independent that's considered a Power 5. And the moment they lose a game, they're going down to like 15, 16, or 17, and they're pretty much out of it. So, like, do you think this is the perfect storm for Notre Dame? Do you think something like this helps Notre Dame this season?
If they went out, yes. Because they're not going to deny Notre Dame.
Yeah, and they have to win out, right? That's why the Pac-12 race is so interesting. That's why the ACC debacle is so interesting, because there's no way 3 SEC teams get into the playoff, right?
Nah.
It's mathematical.
Alabama plays LSU. Alabama plays Auburn. Auburn already played LSU and lost. They got to play Georgia, and they play Alabama. Georgia and LSU get together.
Yeah, it's literally mathematically impossible. There's no way, unless like everybody has 2 or 3 losses, but the SEC team. So how do you? And this will probably be the last thing before we get the picks. Do you think a team like BYU, with the rest of the schedule being a Group of 5 schedule, if UCF loses and BYU only loses 1 more game, which Group of 5 team gets the bowl? Boise State was treated. BYU and UCF, if they lose, they're going to get knocked out. And one of them is going to have to climb back up.
I don't think BYU was going to be in the conversation at all.
I can understand that take, but if UCF loses, even though they're 13, if UCF loses, is there really going to be a 20-something ranked team in the New Year's Six?
If UCF loses, I think there will be no Group of 5 team in the New Year's Six.
Crazy. It's crazy because, I mean, I guess that would be the loophole, right? It says the highest ranked Group of 5 team. But in a season where Boise State loses to a ranked Power 5 team on the road and gets knocked out completely, is this about?
For me, I just see is UCF or bust.
Yeah. I mean, even though a win like Wisconsin got BYU started, they still got to play Hawaii. They still got to play Utah State. They play Utah at the end of the season in like one of the biggest rivalry games in the country. Utah's a Pac-12 team, and, you know, who knows who will be where at that point in the season. But
here's the fun thing with BYU. They came in
Mm-hmm.
They won their first game. Good victory on the road against a Pac-12 team.
Mm-hmm.
They're ranked. Then they get beat by Cal.
Actually, they were unranked.
No. Yeah. They got beat by Cal.
Mm-hmm.
They beat Wisconsin. And all of a sudden they jumped to 20.
No, here's how that happened. Arizona, they won by like 7, unranked, because we know how bad Arizona is. They lose to Cal by 3. They turn around, beat Wisconsin by 3. Beating the 5th-ranked team in the country got them to 25. They blow the brakes off of McNeese State, an FCS team, and get the Florida treatment, and now they're ranked 20. That's why it's so interesting, because BYU has a group of 5 schedule, and they opened up their first 3 games of the season against Power 5 teams. UCF is trying to make a point and has loaded their schedule with one of the hardest conferences in the group of 5, along with Power 5 teams along the way. UCF has literally set themselves up to fail, but they want to prove they won't fail. BYU, besides the Utah game at the end, is in the clear if they can play up to the level they played at Wisconsin. That's why it begs the point, even though BYU is an independent, they're the group of 5, while Notre Dame is a Power 5. Because if UCF or BYU loses, then we get into the technicalities and loopholes. Notre Dame can lose. Me and you both know that. Notre Dame can lose. Notre Dame is going to get the preseason benefit of the doubt. Notre Dame is going to get the postseason benefit of the doubt. Notre Dame, if they were to lose with their schedule, would drop down to 13. Maybe. They wouldn't get into the playoff, but they would definitely get that New Year's 6. And the committee would probably say, well, since Notre Dame's an independent, and since there were no other ranked group of 5 teams. I mean, a season where Notre Dame is finally competitive and Boise State drops completely out the rankings, losing to a ranked Power 5 team on the road, and they were ranked above UCF. UCF keeps their spot after getting a forced bye week and avoiding a Power 5 opponent. That doesn't make you wonder? We literally have a system to where we said these computers are getting it wrong. These computers and their faultless equations said that 2 teams from the same conference, from the same division in the same conference, should be playing for the national championship. We were better off when newspapers were running it. Newspapers where half the guys never even played college football.
Now, I'll say this. The AP might be getting it wrong, but I'm pretty sure when the college playoff rankings come out, we will see how they're thinking. Because that's what really matters. We just using the AP poll to be ready to start doing the actual talk of college playoff.
Yeah, because technically, and this is what people probably don't even remember. Technically, the AP National Championship does still exist. It just doesn't matter. UCF could have been ranked number 1 in the AP last year and been the AP national champion, and people still wouldn't have said that UCF was the real national champion. So you're right, though. In this era, the last era, it was the BCS polls. This era, it's the college football playoff polls. And everybody's still just trying to make their case, basically. So you're right.
And why are we saying all this? Because this week has heightened. Because now you have a North Carolina team who finally gets to play after having their game canceled against 16 Miami down in South Florida.
Ooh.
Miami, this is your opportunity to right the ship. Play 2 cupcakes after you got punched in the mouth. But now you're getting into conference play. A statement performance in a blowout of North Carolina will help. Not saying that it would be, they're back, but it would help.
Yeah, I mean, a 16th ranked team should technically blow out an unranked team, right?
Hey, but you never know. It's conference time.
Yep.
Everybody knows everybody. But Markowitz, I'm pretty sure you're gonna tell them we already had our loss. We already had a loss the first week of the season. We already had it. We can't lose another one. I expect Miami to dominate.
They have to. If Miami doesn't dominate this game, they're in trouble, even with Clemson's quarterback issues.
So as you can tell, we both going Miami. Let's bring us to the next game. Pac-12. 19 Oregon. A heartbreaking loss to Stanford last week.
Mm-hmm.
They played better than Stanford last week.
Mm.
It was their game to win.
Mm-hmm.
And they still lost it.
Mm.
Now they got to go on the road and play 24th ranked Cal. To be honest, we don't know how Cal really looks because we haven't seen Cal. We know they beat BYU, and it looks good.
Mm-hmm.
But how good are they?
I think, once again, the AP poll has set up two teams to fail. We'll get to the other team, but California being ranked 24th, the worst thing that could have happened to the rest of the Pac-12 going forward and this season was Oregon losing that game against Stanford the way that they did. The coaches learned, the quarterbacks learned, the rest of the team learned, the kickers learned, everybody learned what all can go wrong in the span of 15 minutes. Losing the way that they did, having a huge lead and literally giving it up, we say that a lot, but no, Oregon really gave the game to Stanford. It was as if they didn't want to win. You could tell it was a young team that was up and they thought the game was over and they were already ready to celebrate. Those are hard lessons you need to learn, though. Oregon is still rebuilding. It may be crazy to think, but Oregon is still rebuilding. They have a lot of freshmen, a lot of sophomores, a lot of upperclassmen that never played before. California is the perfect game to right the ship and still let people know that, hey, we should be in the running for a New Year's Six Bowl just like everybody else. Because now that the conference schedule has started and they already have a taste of what the season's going to be like, Cal's the perfect rebound game. Cal is the perfect rebound game. Because if you can make it past Cal, if you can beat Cal soundly, who's really to worry about but Washington? They've already played Stanford.
Here's my concern.
Go ahead.
Here's my concern. The same thing happened with TCU.
Mm.
It wasn't winning, but that game was close. And you just knew TCU might can pull this out. And in the span of 3 minutes, it fell apart just that fast. They came back the following week, and they didn't recover at all. As Texas punched them in their mouth and continued what Ohio State started.
Unranked Texas, by the way.
Oregon is a young team just as TCU is. Can they rebound from this? And mind you, both games was the primetime slot games of ABC. One was at a neutral site, the other one was at home. Technically, you can say both was at home because the TCU Ohio State game was in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And they couldn't rebound to play Texas. On the road. Oregon's in the same situation. They're going to Cal. They know they had a game, and they know it slipped. Can they rebound to win this game? Is my question. As a young team, that is one of the most hardest lessons to learn. I'm going to go with Oregon because they have the playmakers. They have it. But where they at mentally is my concern.
This is where coaching comes into play. People don't really like to credit the head coaches unless the head coaches are losing. This is a year, however, where the coaching staff of Oregon can get all the credit and all the glory before that one receiver, that one running back, that one quarterback steps up and starts competing for a Heisman. This is the year where coaching matters. This is where coaches make their money.
And now, as we transition, we're going to head back to the state of Florida, which I forgot to mention when we talk about Miami. This past week was a good week for the state of Florida.
Yeah.
All of the power teams won, including Florida State. They did not get upset again.
Florida State came through for the state.
Florida won dominantly. Florida State won handedly. Miami did what Miami needed to do, and UCF put another disastrous loss on Lane Kiffin.
Foot up his ass.
So for a week, the state of Florida and college is doing good. And with that being said, down in Orlando, here comes the Pittsburgh Panthers to take on them 13 ranked Knights. You didn't play North Carolina because of a hurricane.
Mm-hmm.
But now here comes Pitt.
Mm-hmm.
Pitt wants to make a statement.
Mm-hmm.
Pitt looks at UCF as a group of 5.
Only a group of 5.
Y'all don't play in the conference that we play in.
Y'all don't play the boys who play week after week.
Y'all don't have these Power 5 cross-conference matches.
Neutral site games.
Yeah, y'all beat Auburn, but that was last year.
Don't matter.
But guess what, Pitt? This is the wrong time to play UCF.
Don't do it.
This is the wrong time to go in Orlando.
Not now.
Because think about it, even though the NCAA considers them co-national champions, whoever thought being called national champion is actually a chip on your shoulder. Want me to tell you how UCF is playing from the 3 games that they played?
Oh, wow.
It's a chip on their shoulder. And every game they put up about 40 to 50 points every game they played.
Co is not good enough.
Can't Pitt score 40? Can't Pitt even score 30?
Oh, no.
UCF.
Pittsburgh is the lower tier of a conference that's already having a bad year. Clemson now with this quarterback situation, Mark Richt being Mark Richt, Florida State being Florida State, ain't nobody looking at Pitt to take advantage of this and make a run for it. Ain't nobody looking at Pitt. In fact, hold on. Pittsburgh. Let me just look up the football real quick. Let's look up the schedule. Because Pitt ain't playing nobody, but we know this. They beat Albany, beat Georgia Tech in a close one, and Penn State beat the brakes off of them. Then they lost to UNC in a close one. So what you telling me is you can beat Albany. You can beat a triple option team that can't score quick. But the moment you play a real football team, the moment you play a ranked football team, those breaks getting beat all the way off. The team that UCF was supposed to play beat you by 3. The team that's up UCF in the polls by 4 spots, they beat you by 45. Process of elimination, you about to get the ass toe up. Ain't nobody picking Pittsburgh. It'd be one of the biggest upsets of the year. Think about this, Darnell. Who would have ever thought an ACC team beating a group of 5 team would be one of the biggest upsets of the year?
For that to happen, one of 2 things happen. Your offense kept scoring, or your defense stopped the explosive offense.
And that's the thing, Darnell. You're saying one of 2. Both. UCF's defense ain't going to allow 50 points. And UCF's offense ain't going to score less than 24. Pittsburgh is not going to be the team to hold UCF to 21 points or fewer. Pittsburgh is not that team. Now, a team can do it. I'm not going to say a team can't do it. There's going to be a game where UCF wins on a last-second field goal. UCF ain't just about to run through this whole season. They still got to play Navy and Houston, the teams that have been thorns in their side from the very beginning. So they still got their conference schedule to play. They got teams gunning for them, knowing that they have no shot at anything if they can't beat UCF. UCF is playing for the big prize. UCF is waiting for everybody to collapse and lose, and the playoff committee has no choice but to rank them in the top 8. Everybody else in that conference is just playing for the hopes of getting ranked so they can play in a bowl. The worst thing that could have happened, Darnell, that they already have the chip on their shoulder from the co-national champion. They already have the chip on their shoulder from the Alabama Crimson Tide players getting at them on Twitter. Now they couldn't play UNC. Now they have those newspaper clippings. Oh, Jesus. It won't even be close.
We're going to stick in Florida, but we're not actually sticking at Florida. We're going to Mississippi because Dan Mullen is returning to Starkville, Mississippi, where he used to coach the Mississippi State Bulldogs. And how are they feeling right now?
14.
Y'all ranked 14. But look who you lost to. Oh,
right there.
It's the same team that beat Florida. Before we get into this game, Dallas, what do you have to say about the Kentucky Wildcats?
Every year since this thing called the college football playoff has started, there has been that one team that in the BCS era, they were trash. They were trash, or they were that one up-and-comer that couldn't get it done. In the beginning, it was Michigan State and Iowa because they were still in their window of opportunity from the end of the BCS era. One year it was Georgia Tech, then they fell through. Another year it was Navy trying to get a New Year's Six Bowl, but they fell through. But this year, it's Kentucky. Kentucky has been asked for a long time. But every dog has their day. I don't know where this is going to end up for Kentucky. Because when you look at it, Darnell, when you look at the big picture, the SEC has like 5 or 6 teams ranked in the top 15. We all know they're about to cannibalize themselves, but Kentucky and Mississippi State being ranked in the top 15 in the college football playoff era. You remember what our preseason predictions are, Darnell? You remember which conference we said was top to bottom better than everybody?
SEC.
The worst team in the conference, historically. Bud Dupree is the only person I can remember from Kentucky that had a good NFL career. Please tell me, Randall Cobb.
Good on Monday. I give him that.
Yeah, Randall Cobb. Randall Cobb's still playing. Old quarterback for Kentucky. He's having a decent career. But besides those two, I got nothing. I ain't even got nobody who was a dominant factor on a Kentucky team that went to a bowl.
Could it be that with them finally breaking this stranglehold of Florida, they feel like they can play now?
I think them breaking the stranglehold on Florida was a means to an end. I don't think it was the end. Them beating Florida was what made the country realize, well, what the hell's going on over here? This isn't SEC pulpit preaching, but Darnell, it is. Kentucky is by far the worst team in the SEC historically. Teams in the top 15.
I think Arkansas has taken that mantle.
No, I'm saying historically. I'm not saying this season. I am saying over time. Kentucky has been the cellar dweller of the SEC over time. I don't care about this season because you're damn right Arkansas is the worst team. You look at Vanderbilt's schedule, look at their out-of-conference schedule. Vanderbilt's played some teams. Arkansas is by far the worst team this year. But the cellar dwellers have always been Vanderbilt and Kentucky.
That usually how it goes when you're really known for basketball. Football isn't really too bright.
Thank you. That is my point. Kentucky is in the top 15. That is essentially the crux of this week's episode.
They
Everywhere
ranked top 20, ranked 17, which is a massive. They came from unranked to 17 in just about beating.
Couple weeks. Who they play this week? We ain't got it. We ain't talking about who they play this week real quick.
Let me find out.
But while you're finding out, like, my point is, like, dude, the top 20, then forget top 20. Kentucky in the top anything. Kentucky in the top anything. Dude, it's if the SEC West didn't have to cannibalize itself, we would have a 3 SEC team playoff.
They play Starkville. Kentucky can be 3-0 in the conference, 5-0 overall. Yes, I just said Kentucky could be 5-0 overall and 3-0 in the conference.
When they play Georgia?
They play Georgia November 3rd.
Ooh, a late game, which means that Kentucky, big if Kentucky has no losses that Georgia game and Georgia has no losses that game, you have to think that the committee is going to be very gracious to Kentucky. This is going to be you are who we thought you were. This is this team was undefeated.
That game will be in Lexington.
You have to think that the committee is going to be like, oh, wait a minute. This isn't you are who we thought you were. This is undefeated Georgia came through and beat an undefeated SEC team. That's a great win for Georgia, and that's a loss for Kentucky. That's going to get them in the New Year's Six Bowl.
Matter of fact, that's the week after Georgia plays Florida.
Woo. So if Georgia beats Florida, that might be the letdown game. If Georgia loses against Florida, Kentucky might get the brakes beat off of them. Either way, the SEC East is looking a lot better than we thought it would when the season started. So going back to this game, the SEC West is legit. The SEC East is legit. Probably the worst thing that could probably happen in the whole sport of college football. But this game is really, honestly, a toss-up for me. Because Mississippi State being able to get to this point after Dan Mullen has left says that program is approaching UCF-style levels where the program can outlast a coach. A program can outlast a quarterback. I'm wondering if Mississippi State's stability can take them over Florida. What do you think, Darnell?
Nope. Because the one thing I heard from Dan Mullen, and it showed when they played Tennessee, the players are grasping the concept of Dan Mullen's offense.
It seems like Florida actually has a quarterback now. When Florida has a quarterback, watch out. Tim Tebow, Steve Spurrier, Danny Werfel. When Florida has a quarterback, please watch out.
So you know it's a tough one, but the Gators need this more because the following week comes LSU.
You have to think, even though they are an SEC team, they ain't beating LSU if they can't beat Mississippi State. LSU was on all cylinders. Florida not only needs the momentum, but they need to prove to themselves and the country that Dan Mullen's offense can work this year against high-caliber opponents. Tennessee is Tennessee, let's be honest. Tennessee ain't doing nothing this year.
Don't worry. I'm in Tennessee's defense. Don't worry. At some point in time, Jeremy Pruitt's going to get that defense on point. At some point in time, he's going to get that defense on point. It's going to happen.
I mean, they had a decent game against West Virginia, and West Virginia didn't pull out till late. So, but, so I take it you're taking Florida?
I'm taking Florida.
I'm going to take Mississippi State purely from the standpoint of this team beats Florida as the 14th ranked team. It's going to be really interesting because Auburn and LSU and Georgia, you know they're going to lose. If teams like Kentucky and Mississippi State can keep rolling, and those teams have their losses, it's going to be chaos, and I'm here for it. So I got Mississippi State.
All right, we got some more important games to get into. So real quickly, does Ole Miss stand a chance against LSU?
Nope.
All right, and real quickly out in the Pac-12, USC Arizona. You know what? Tell him something. He got a win under his belt. And USC, they going down. They just trending down. I think I'm gonna go Arizona.
Has Cameron Summerlin won yet?
Yeah, he won. He got a win under his belt.
I just can't imagine Arizona going 1-11 or 1-10. Not a coach like Kevin Sumlin his first year. I got Arizona too.
The games that we really look into. First game, we're going to stay in the Pac-12. BYU is at Washington, 20 versus 10.
BYU has a top 25 defense and a top 100 offense. Like, that offense is night and day. I mean, Washington, they're ranked number 10 because they still got a dominant defense. It seems like they just know how to recruit nose tackles and linebackers. It's weird because when you look at Desmond Trufant, Marcus Peters, and so many others, Washington used to be a DB school. Now they're a nose tackle school. Now they're a linebacker school. I mean, that defense, the way BYU's offense has been struggling against teams that don't have probably the best defense in their conference, it's gonna be rough. It's gonna be ugly.
I'm taking Washington. I'm taking Washington.
Yeah, I'm taking Washington too because even if BYU's defense can play up to the level they've been playing at, BYU's offense, they won't be able to get enough done.
I'm taking Washington because this is around the time where Washington starts to piece it together now.
Yep.
And
Stanford got another conference win. They got to turn it up, man.
It just keeps flowing. So now we're going to transition to the Big 12. 12 versus 25. West Virginia and Lubbock, Texas to take on the Texas Tech.
I want Texas Tech to win so bad.
Do it. Dare I say shootout in Lubbock, Texas?
I want Texas Tech to win so bad because it's a team with no defense and no running game. I just want – they literally do one thing, and that's pass that damn ball. I just want a team in the top 25 where we know they don't do nothing but pass that damn ball. They don't play defense. They don't play run defense. They barely do kickoffs with it. They pass that ball.
And that's the problem and why I'm taking West Virginia. You seen West Virginia play. They play some defense.
Oh, they play some good ball.
Will Greer, the former Florida quarterback, he's looking great.
When you think about teams that don't run a two-quarterback system, he's going to have to be in the lead when they start the Heisman voter. Unless Tua can, for sure, stop blowing out people and play a whole game every once in a while.
I'm taking West Virginia.
Me too. But damn, I want Texas Tech to win. They can pass that damn ball.
And now to the two biggest games of the week. South Bend and the North. Whew. A lot of eyes going to be on this one. Number 7. Number 8.
Oof.
The Cardinals of Stanford. The Fighting Irish of Notre Dame. This is what we've been talking about all day. This game and the final game we're going to talk about is what we've been talking about this whole time. Who gets that extra notch when the playoff polls come out? Who is the committee going to look at and say, you did your job? Right now, Bryce Love, people already writing you off from the Heisman. They saying Bryce Love ain't going to win the Heisman. Why? Because everybody know what to do to Stanford. They stop you. for what they failed to find out, they can pass the ball. How did they come back and beat Oregon? They passed the ball. And every now and then, Bryce Love get a couple of runs in there.
Interesting.
But Notre Dame got a defense.
Mm-hmm.
And Notre Dame has a quarterback situation. They started a new quarterback last week at Wake Forest, and it took Wake Forest to school. Oof. This one is talk about a toss-up.
It's rough.
Can start running the ball?
Can he?
Notre Dame got a passing attack.
Oh.
It is in Notre Dame.
This is very true.
Is in Notre Dame. It's in South Bend.
Is Stanford really back yet? Is this the year where Stanford really comes back to the Andrew Luck era? Because Darnell, here's the weird thing. When you really think about it, Stanford just had its golden era. Historically, Stanford was the Kentucky of the Pac-12. So when you think about it, we witnessed the greatest era in Stanford history when Andrew Luck, Toby Gerhardt, Colby Fleener,
Christian McCaffrey,
Richard Sherman, Doug Baldwin. Like we've witnessed the golden age of Stanford. But Notre Dame, somehow, some way, they haven't been the Notre Dame of old, but Notre Dame's always been Notre Dame. Even 6-6 Notre Dame is still somehow Notre Dame. The NBC TV deal, the pageantry, the benefit of the doubt in the preseason. If a Brian Kelly, who did it before with Cincinnati in the Big East, back when he was David, now he's Goliath. Is Stanford really back? With their running back having an offseason when everybody was all eyes on him as a Heisman favorite, is Stanford really back enough to beat a top 10 Notre Dame in South Bend? I don't think so. I think that with your Heisman contender being shut down by teams that ain't Notre Dame, I think with Notre Dame finally finding a quarterback that the head coach has confidence in, and I think Notre Dame in that defense, if they can lock down Bryce Love early, can Stanford do what they need to do to score in a close game? I don't think this is a shootout at all. I think this might be one of the ugliest games of the weekend. But Notre Dame's been there before. Brian Kelly's been there before. Granted, the head coach of Stanford's been there before, but let's be real. He was a heavy beneficiary of Jim Harbaugh's work. I got Notre Dame.
Which bring us to the final game. And everybody knows what game there's going to be. They can't be nowhere else.
Mm-mm.
There's no other game to be it this weekend.
Nuh-uh.
There's no other game to really watch this weekend. Dallas. He's back. Urban Meyer's back. He came back last week, and Ohio State continued to do what Ohio State does. They destroyed Tulane. But here we go.
Scandalous.
College Station.
Scandalous.
Pennsylvania.
God.
It's the old school blue and white.
Those Nittany Lions.
Woo. James Franklin, them Nittany Lions. Welcoming me in the Buckeyes of Ohio State.
Mind you, while Ohio State's been taking it easy on the world, Penn State just broke their foot off in the conference opponent's ass. This is a Super Bowl head coach, and they just broke their whole ankle off him, by the way.
Woo-hoo! To be honest, Dallas, this is you versus me, honestly. You picked Ohio State to get to the conference and win the conference. Yeah. I picked Wisconsin, but I got them beating Penn State.
Who holds up?
What do we stand with this?
Do you trust James Franklin, Darnell?
Absolutely.
Now, do you trust the players on the field that James Franklin has to use?
Absolutely.
Do you trust them more? Do you trust Urban Meyer, who's really never left the team this whole season?
Fair point. Great point. But guess what? I'm pretty sure they're tired of hearing that Ohio State's the class of the Big Ten Conference.
They're really not. Penn State has won the conference as recently as what, 2016? 15?
Exactly. But guess what? Every time we do these, everybody that do these preseason things, who's always first on the list?
Ohio State.
Ohio State. They sick of it. They're tired of it. They ain't even so tired of it. Urban Meyer got off lightly on his punishment.
Oof.
But you just almost destroyed Penn State for when they went.
And it was bad.
Rightfully so. But Urban Meyer's going to get
a slap on the wrist, basically.
3 games, but he can coach practice?
Basically, he's watching the game at home with a sweet tea, taking a nap under a fan.
No, he already prepared the team for the week.
Chilling.
Man, I picked Penn State to come out of that side of the conference. I'm sticking with it.
I mean, it's a top 10 matchup, even though one of us has to be wrong at the end of the day. That's why you play the game. You play to win the game. It's 4 versus 9 on paper, and this game is everything that it should be. Penn State's been breaking off ankles all year. Ohio State, they suspended Urban Meyer for the cupcake schedule, and he still was able to coach. So do with that what you will.
Got to stick with our guns.
Got to.
There's no other way to end this. We have to stick with our guns. Somebody has to be wrong.
Yeah, the Big Ten at the end of the day is probably the only conference in the entire country where me and you really, really have to stick with our guns. SEC, we know, as good as that conference is, we know what's about to go down in the SEC. We know what time it is. Everybody else, toss up. The Big Ten, however, we knew coming in, Darnell. Me and you knew coming in there were 3 teams. Well, we thought Michigan State. We knew coming in there were like maybe 3 or 4 teams that had a shot to legitimately win the conference. So we got to stick with the picks. Because me and you both knew going in multiple people could win it.
There you have it. Get ready. Get your popcorn, get your wings, your pizza, whatever. Because this weekend, this Saturday, it's going to be amazing.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get back with y'all.
The podcast you just heard was made using Anchor. Ever thought about making your own podcast? Anchor makes it really easy for anyone to get started. It's a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing podcasts. Best of all, it's 100% free. Sign up now at anchor.fm/new. That's anchor.fm/new to get started.